will be postponed. Clerk will read.
Page 282, line 8, section 1771, the level for Presidio Trust Fund, $15 million.
For what purposes, gentleman from New York, rise?
Madam Chair, I have an amendment at the desk.
Will designate the amendment.
Amendment number 381, offered by Mr. Reed of New York.
Gentleman from New York is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I rise today in support of my amendment seeking to rescind $15 million of funds out of this continuing resolution. As I've listened to the debate here this evening and yesterday and over the last few days, as a freshman member of Congress, I've come to a realization that part of the problem is that many members of this esteemed body look at our spending in terms of it's a relatively small amount of money. It's a small sum. But we're talking about millions of dollars. We're talking about $15 million in this situation. Now, I propose this amendment without any disrespect to any member of this House, but I propose it in a time when we face a national crisis that goes to our very existence for generations to come, a nation that won't be here for our children and our grandchildren. And when I look at the Presidio Trust Fund and I look at the park, and it's a great park, I concede that point, but the plan for the park was to be self-sufficient. And upon researching and going through page by page of this budget and doing the hard work, my staff and I have uncovered that this park is at the point where it can be self-sufficient on its own. They have received grants of $80,000 from the Cowell Foundation for 3 projects. They have a $15 million gift from the private sector from Evelyn and Walter Hess, Jr. Lucas Arts Video Games and Industrial Light and Magic are leasing portions of the park, and it's a private revenue stream. This is a success story. And at this point, it's time for us to put all our cards on the table and say, now that you are standing on your own 2 feet, when we face this fiscal crisis, this government now has to make a responsible decision. And to me, that responsible decision is to allow the park to stand on its own 2 feet. It has shown plenty of ability to do that and save the children and grandchildren so that we can have a nation that they can be proud of and can have a nation that they can live in, because that's the point that we are in our nation's history. So I stand today and ask your support for this amendment. I think it is the responsible action to do, and I applaud this process because this process is being conducted in the open and through a vigorous debate. And that's what the American people have called upon us to do. No line of our spending shall be left under stones. We shall uncover each stone, and I urge all my fellow members to support this amendment. I yield back my time.
Gentleman yields back. For what purposes, the gentleman from Virginia rise?
Madam Chair, I rise to strike the last word.
Gentleman is recognized for 5 minutes.
And I rise in strong opposition to this amendment that would eliminate funding for the Presidio Trust. The Presidio was in continuous use as a military post from 1776 until 1994. An Army installation, the post was closed in 1994 as part of the BRAC process and transferred to the National Park Service. In 1996, Congress established the Presidio Trust to govern this unique national park site and to ensure its preservation by making it financially self-sustaining. And that's exactly what has happened. Over the past 12 years, appropriations as a percentage of the overall trust budget have been reduced from over 95% federal funding in fiscal year 1998 to less than 20% in fiscal year 2010. The current ratio of private investment in the Presidio to federal appropriations is already greater than 4-to-1. Appropriations, though, are authorized through fiscal year 2012. That was the deal. After 2012, the trust itself, by itself alone, is responsible for long-term operations and maintenance of the Presidio. Since it took over management of the Presidio in 1998, the trust has rehabilitated and leased 97% of the Presidio's housing units and rehabilitated 75% of the Presidio's 433 very historic buildings. I've been there. I've seen it. It's phenomenal what the Trust has accomplished. Eliminating funds just 1 year short of its goal violates the spirit of the 1996 law, and it undermines the Trust's ability to achieve self-sufficiency. This would result in higher future obligations, as the federal government might have to assume full responsibility to maintain the historic properties. It also sends a terrible signal to communities across the country that may also have innovative solutions in partnering with the federal government. They're time controlled. In other words, it's not forever, but they say for a certain period of time, if you'll partner with us, we'll take this responsibility off your hands. The $23 million appropriated for the Trust in fiscal year 2010 has created 860 jobs. Federal appropriations in this current fiscal year will help expedite rehabilitation of historic buildings and take advantage of favorable construction costs that exist today. At a recent oversight hearing, the members of our Appropriations Subcommittee received assurances that the Trust will accomplish its financial stewardship and public use goals. That was the deal. They said, we'll meet our part of the deal, assuming that the federal government will meet its obligation. As one of the nation's oldest and most important military posts, the Trust has had some unique, extraordinary challenges since the Defense Department closed out its installations. But the Trust is well on its way toward meeting its legislative objectives. It should not be undermined by this amendment. This has worked well. It's an example for the rest of the country. Let it serve as an example. 1 more year to go, and then it will be off our books. The Trust will take over responsibility, and we will point out that this is the way to do it, in partnership, where we will not be perpetually responsible, but in fact the private sector will come in, let the market work, and have a national gym, really, a national asset for everyone to visit and appreciate and learn from. So, Madam Chair, I'll yield the balance of my time, but strongly urge opposition to this amendment. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Gentleman yields back. For what purpose the gentleman from Idaho?
Madam Chairwoman, I move to strike last word.
Gentleman is recognized for 5 minutes.
Mr. Chairman, I rise in concurrence with the comments of my ranking member from Virginia. Funding for the Presidio in this CR is $8.2 million below the FY10 enacted level and $7 million below the FY08 level. When the government closed down the Presidio Army Base in 1994, it was transferred to the National Park Service as part of the Golden Gate National Recreation Area. It could have been turned over to the National Park Service and run as a historic park, but that would have cost tens of millions of dollars per year to the taxpayers. Instead, Congress devised a unique management and funding model by creating the Presidio Trust to preserve the Presidio and help it become financially self-sufficient. The Trust manages 80% of the Presidio lands, including most of the buildings and the infrastructure. The Park Service manages the remaining 20%, including the coastal areas of the Presidio. The Presidio Trust receives federal appropriations that are diminishing each year and, as was mentioned, will cease at the end of FY12. And when it becomes self-sufficient. This truly is a model of how we can do these things where they will become self-sufficient and off the roll of the taxpayer. But our part of this is we have to keep our end of the deal. And so through FY012, we need to make sure that we keep our word on what was agreed on in 1996 and let this Presidio Trust take over and become self-sufficient at the end of the next fiscal year. So I rise in opposition to this amendment and would encourage my colleagues to vote against it.
Gentleman yields back. The question is on the offered by the gentleman from New York. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. In the opinion of the chair, the noes have it. Gentleman from New York.
Yes, Chairman. I ask for a roll call vote.
Pursuant to Clause 6 of Rule 18, further proceedings on the amendment offered by the gentleman from New York will be postponed. Read.
Page 282, line 11, Section 1772, the level for Dwight D. Eisenhower Memorial Commission, salaries and expenses, $0. Section 1773, the level for Dwight D. Eisenhower Memorial Commission, Capital Construction at $0. Section 1774, Section 409 of Division A of Public Law 111-88 is amended. Section 1775, the level for Section 415 of Division A of Public Law 111-88, $0. Section 1776, Section 433 of Division A of Public Law 111-88 is amended. Section 1777, not later than 30 days after the date of enactment of this division, agencies shall submit to the House and Senate Committees on Appropriations a spending, expenditure, or operating plan for fiscal year 2011. Section 1778, none of the funds made available by this division may be used to implement, administer, or enforce Secretarial Order Number 3310 issued by the Secretary of the Interior on December 22, 2010. Title 8, Labor, Health and Human Services, Education and Related Agencies. Section 1801, the level for Department of Labor, Employment and Training Administration, Training and Employment Services, $22,699,000. Section 1802, unobligated balances available for Department of Labor, Departmental Management, Office of Job Corps, $300 million is rescinded. Section 1803, unobligated balances of the funds made available for Department of Labor, Employment and Training Administration, Training and Employment Services, federally administered programs, Dislocated Workers Assistance National Reserve, and Division D of Public Law 111-117, $100 million is rescinded. Section 1804, unobligated balances of the funds made available for Department of Labor, Employment and Training Administration, Training and Employment Services, National Activities Evaluation, $10 million is rescinded. Section 1805, the level for Department of Labor, Employment and Training Administration, Community Service Employment for Older Americans, $300,425,000. Section 1806, the level for Department of Labor, Mine Safety and Health Administration, Salaries and Expenses, $355,843,000. Section 1807, the level for Department of Labor, Departmental Management, $315,154,000. Section 1808, unobligated balances available for Department of Labor, Working Capital Fund, $3,900,000 is permanently rescinded. Section 1809, the level for Department of Health and Human Services, Health Resources and Services Administration, Health Resources and Services, $5,313,171,000.
From New York Rise. For what purpose does the gentlewoman from New York rise?
Mr. Chairman, I move to strike the last word.
Gentlewoman's recognized for 5 minutes.
As I visit all the communities of my district, I'm asked about high unemployment, how government can help promote job growth, and how we can get the economy working again for families trying to make ends meet. It is clear that the top priority in New York and across the country is creating jobs. But when I'm in Washington, I don't hear the House leadership answering that call. Since the beginning of the year, we have yet to debate a single bill that would create a single job. There have been no attempts to make the targeted investments in innovation and education that will help us win the next century, as the President mentioned in the State of the Union. In the last decade, unemployment has skyrocketed while the number of abortions has decreased. Yet today, the majority is pursuing an extreme assault on women's health and reproductive rights by eliminating the cost-effective family planning program. My amendment would restore $317 million for Title X family planning because it is a wise investment. Publicly supported family planning clinics save taxpayers nearly $4 for every $1 that is spent providing contraceptive care. In New York, more than 340,000 women are served by Title X funding clinics, and 66% have incomes at or below poverty level. Elimination of the program in the CR would only guarantee higher government health care costs for these low-income Americans in future years. If our goal is to cut spending, it is reckless to eliminate this program that saves taxpayer dollars. It is unconscionable that those Americans who most need access to the affordable basic health care Title X provides, like cancer screenings, contraceptives, have become victim of the extreme right's divisive, partisan attempts to deny women a full range of legal health services. Even as we consider this wrong-headed bill, they are simultaneously pursuing legislation in authorizing committees to roll back the clock on a woman's right to choose, limit services available to victims of rape and incest, and even allow hospitals to deny life-saving treatment for women. Not once have I heard a constituent say that it's important for the government to get to work on restricting women's health choices and denying basic care. At a time of high unemployment and enormous economic challenges, Congress should focus on job creation. The assault on women's health must stop now. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Gentlewoman yields back. For what purpose does the gentlewoman from Connecticut rise?
Let's strike the last word.
Gentlewoman is recognized for 5 minutes.
Mr. Speaker, in a breathtaking and a radical step, the Republican majority has proposed to eliminate Title X funding, which has connected millions of American women to health care since 1970. In 2009, Title X providers performed 2.3 million breast exams, 2.2 million Pap tests, and nearly 1 million HIV tests to men and women both. This Republican Congress is trying to turn back the clock on women's health and turn back the clock on women's basic rights. They are taking us back to a day when family planning was not a given opportunity for women. In Connecticut, more than 62,000 men and women benefit from care at Title X-funded health centers each year. Over 70% of them have a family income of less than $16,245 a year. In other words, this is the only way they can afford health care. In fact, 6 of every 10 women who seek care at a Title X-funded center consider it the main source of medical care, and yet the majority is trying to take these important services away. It is argued that we need to cut Title X services to reduce the deficit. This is simply not true. For every dollar invested in Title X, taxpayers save just under $4. The fact of the matter is the vital preventive care and family planning services supported by Title X save money and save lives. Make no mistake, cutting Title X funding is a breathtaking and a radical step. The majority is using the guise of budget cutting to launch an assault on Title X, which would endanger women's health. Understanding their purpose has nothing to do with the deficit. They want to impose their traditional view of a woman's role. Let's get real. This legislation is not about federal funding for abortion. Federal funds, including Title X, are already banned from going towards abortion services under the Hyde Amendment. Rather, much like the repeal of health care reform, this is part of an agenda to force women back into traditional roles with limited opportunities. Under their proposal, more than 5 million people lose access to basic, primary, and preventive health care. As a cancer survivor myself, who is only here today because my cancer was found in stage 1, I can tell you losing access to screenings will cost lives. It comes down to this. The proposal to eliminate Title X is a bad policy. It will hurt women, do nothing for our economy. It costs money. Instead of making it harder for women to get health care, we should be standing up for these vital services. The American public called for job creation and turning our economy around last November. I believe that my colleagues on the other side of the aisle have not heeded that call. This bill would do nothing to create jobs, nor reduce the deficit. On behalf of women, on behalf of middle class and working families we represent, I urge my colleagues to leave this extreme and divisive social agenda out of the picture, support, and we should not be playing games with women's health and with basic rights.
Gentlewoman yields back. Who seeks recognition? Alabama Rise.
Madam Chairman, I move to strike the last word.
Gentlewoman is recognized for 5 minutes.
I oppose increase of funding for Title X. We should not allocate federal funds to groups like Planned Parenthood that use the money for abortions. Planned Parenthood has recently made plain the centrality of abortion to its mission, mandating that every affiliate have at least one clinic performing abortions within the next 2 years. Additionally, it is beyond shocking that Planned Parenthood employees were recently found on video aiding and abetting in the alleged sex trafficking of minors. This is not the first time that Planned Parenthood has shown such shocking behavior. It happened in my home state of Alabama back in 2009. A Planned Parenthood counselor was caught on hidden camera telling an alleged 14-year-old statutory rape victim that the clinic does sometimes bend the rules a little bit, rather than report sexual abuse to state authorities. 2 years later, we are still seeing this outrageous behavior by Planned Parenthood employees. It is time to stop funding such an organization with taxpayer dollars. Planned Parenthood ignores statutory rape law reporting, pushes abortion procedures, and opposes any effort to elevate the legal status of a fetus at any stage of development. It is not a proud day that citizens learn that these activities have been continually funded by the federal government. It is an even worse day when we are told that our government has funded Planned Parenthood with more than $363 million in government grants and contracts. Since fiscal year 1998, Title X has seen increased funding for 10 of the 12 years. From fiscal year 1998 to fiscal year 2010, Title X funding has increased by over 56%. In appropriations for fiscal year 2010, Title X saw a 3.3% increase in funding, which was a $10 million increase over 2009 funding. This is unacceptable spending at a time that we must cut federal spending. The continual action by Planned Parenthood and its employees is demeaning for women and a black eye on our society. Funding must be stopped. We should not spend any more taxpayers' dollars to push Planned Parenthood's agenda to take away the rights of the unborn. I urge my colleagues to vote no on the amendment to add money to Title X, and I yield back my time.
Gentlewoman yields back. Clerk will read.
Page 288, line 15, line 16, Section 1810. Now, the level Department of Health and Human Services, Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, Disease Control, Research and Training, $5,742,989,000. Section 1811, the level for Department of Health and Human Services, National Institutes of Health, National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, $4,214,275,000. Section 1812, the amount provided by Section 1101 for Department of Health and Human Services, National Institutes of Health is reduced by $260 million. Section 1813, the level for Department of Health and Human Services, National Institutes of Health, Buildings and Facilities, $22,700,000. Section 1814, the level for Department of Health and Human Services, Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services.
Madam Chairman, I have an amendment at the desk. Madam Chairman, I have an amendment at the desk.
Will the gentleman specify the number on your amendment, please?
Amendment is number 565.
Clerk will designate the amendment.
Amendment number 565, printed in the Congressional Record, offered by Mr. Bass of New Hampshire.
The gentleman from New Hampshire is recognized for 5 minutes.
And I thank the gentlelady for recognizing me for 5 minutes in support of my amendment. My amendment very simply adds $50 million to the Low-Income Energy Assistance Program, otherwise known as LIHEAP. Winters in the Northeast and elsewhere in America are long and hard, and especially this year, it's been difficult. It's been a tough year. In January, we saw more or less twice the average amount of snow. Temperatures have been well below average in some parts of the country, and there are similar stories not only in New Hampshire but elsewhere in the Northeast and around the nation. The problem with reducing the contingency fund in the Low-Income Energy Assistance Plan is we are in the middle of the winter right now. And what my amendment does is add $50 million to assure that we have adequate resources to make it through March and into April. Now, the amendment also reduces the substance abuse and mental health services by an equivalent amount, but that is only about 1% of the total funding for that line item. Let me point out that what this amendment will do will assure that low-income individuals in America have the necessary resources in order to assure that they have adequate heat throughout the rest of the year. Now, you know, this is a difficult process that we're going through here, and I recognize that there are trade-offs. But this is a very small change in a safety net that provides an enormous resource very quickly. We can debate the rest of the Low-Income Energy Assistance Plan later in the year. What this $50 million increase does is make it possible to get through the winter. I urge my colleagues to support this amendment, and I yield back the balance of my time.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Montana rise? The gentleman is recognized for 5 minutes.
We accept this amendment.
The gentleman yields back. Question is on the amendment offered by the gentleman from New Hampshire. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. The amendment is agreed to. Gentlewoman from Connecticut, pursuant to Clause 6 of Rule 18, further proceedings on the amendment offered by the gentleman from New Hampshire will be postponed. The clerk will read.
Page 292, line 1, section 1815, the amount included under the heading Department of Health and Human Services, Agency for Healthcare Research and Quality, Healthcare Research and Quality of Division D of Public Law 111-117 shall be applied to funds appropriated by substituting $372,053,000 for $397,053,000. Section 1816, amounts transferred from the Federal Hospital Insurance Trust Fund for Department of Health and Human Services, Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services Program Management, $3,012,162,000. Section 1817, the level for Department of Health and Human Services, Administration for Children and Families, Low-Income Home Energy Assistance, $4,709,672,000.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Massachusetts rise?
I rise to offer an amendment pre-printed in the Congressional Record and designated as Amendment Number 60.
Clerk will designate the amendment.
Amendment number 160, printed in the Congressional Record, offered by Mr. Markey of Massachusetts.
The gentleman from Massachusetts recognized for 5 minutes. For what purpose does the gentleman from Montana rise? Point of order is reserved. Gentleman from Massachusetts.
I thank the chair. We all recognize that we must make calculated decisions to drive down our deficit. But today, we see the cold calculations of the Republican leadership who are cutting hundreds of millions of dollars to help our nation's poorest families heat their homes while continuing the billions in taxpayer subsidies we send to big oil companies. My amendment would fully restore LIHEAP funding and reduce the deficit by repealing these $40 billion in tax breaks for big oil. Oil companies don't need the 100-year-old tax breaks to sell $100 per barrel oil while making $100 billion per year. For millions of families across the country this year, heating bills have been piling up along with the snow, and so have the record number of people who are turning to LIHEAP to help them get through the winter. In my state of Massachusetts alone, LIHEAP is projected to help 250,000 families this winter. But even as the mercury has dropped, House Republicans are now considering dropping this important safety net for millions of low-income families nationwide. The only way this bill is going to help families heat their homes would be if they tossed all 359 pages in the fireplace. It takes a frigid heart for the Republican leadership to continue to defend tax breaks for oil and gas companies while putting heating fuel assistance for America's neediest on ice. But that's exactly what they are doing. The majority spending bill presents us with a false choice. We shouldn't be cutting heating assistance for the poorest families before repealing the $40 billion in tax subsidies to big oil companies, the most profitable companies in the history of the world. The Republicans can continue to make their choices, but the American people will not stand with them when they are faced with giving tax breaks to Exxon or fuel assistance to low-income Americans. They have chosen Exxon. When they are forced to choose between a free lunch for BP or choose a lunch for hungry senior citizens, they make the choice for BP. We should not be balancing the budget on the backs of the poorest families. I urge support for this amendment to protect the neediest amongst us with a no vote on this cold-hearted funding bill.
This is the gentleman from Montana Rise.
Madam Chair, I make a point of order against the amendment because it proposes to change existing law and constitutes legislation in an appropriation bill and therefore violates Clause 2 of Rule 21. The rule states in pertinent part, an amendment to a general appropriation bill shall not be in order if changing existing law, and the amendment directly amends existing law. I ask for a ruling from the Chair.
Does any other member wish to be heard on the point of order? The Chair finds that the amendment proposes directly to change existing law to wit the Internal Revenue Code of 1986. As such, it constitutes legislation in violation of Clause 2C of Rule 21. The point of order is sustained. This is the gentleman from New York. Rise.
Madam Chair, I move to strike the last word.
Gentleman is recognized for 5 minutes.
Madam Chair, I rise today in opposition to the continuing resolution. Instead of fighting a war on cancer, this bill declares a war on cancer research and those who undertake it. The National Cancer Institute Director, Dr. Harold Varmus, said it best in December when he warned that the proposed cuts would have dire and lethal consequences. He is right. The proposed $1.6 billion cut to the National Institutes of Health would undermine the most successful innovation model the world has ever seen. The classic view of innovation is that government funds basic science while industry comes up with new innovative products based on that science. This model has worked well. Over the past 40 years, 153 new Federal Drug Administration approved drugs and vaccines were discovered through research carried out at public institutions with federal funds. In the last 20 years alone, 1 out of every 5 important medical advances approved by the FDA was invented in a federally funded lab. Those inventions, which included 40 new drugs for cancer, are currently generating more than $100 billion a year for drug and biotechnology firms. This includes drugs like Herceptin for breast cancer, Avastin for lung cancer, Gleevec for gastrointestinal stromal tumors that inhibit and/or block cancer cell growth. And this research in cancer alone supports over 1,300 clinical trials each year for promising new therapies for more than 200,000 cancer patients. President Nixon, a Republican, recognized the importance of a sustained public commitment in basic research when he signed the National Cancer Act in 1971. And last year, under President Obama, $5 billion was provided to the National Cancer Institute to continue that mission. This funding bill would take us back, decreasing the National Institutes of Health budget by 5%, disrupting this tremendously successful innovation model. The only failure in cancer research is when you quit or you're forced to quit because of the lack of funding. Our sustained commitment to biochemical research is vital to my community in Western New York, where approximately $100 million in federal funding supports research each and every year. Institutions like Roswell Park Cancer Institute, Huffman Woodward Medical Research Institute, the University of Buffalo, companies along the Buffalo Niagara Medical Campus all rely on this funding to conduct research and translate that research to new treatments and products to improve the quality of life. The cuts proposed would not only hurt these institutions and small businesses, it will hurt the entire Buffalo community that is now beginning to realize the tremendous economic benefit of this research. Alleviating suffering due to diseases like cancer in our lifetime should be Congress's goal. And this continuing resolution falls dangerously short of that, and I urge my colleagues to oppose it. Yes.
I thank the gentleman for yielding. Right now, to 2010, we spent $172 billion on Alzheimer's patients. $172 billion, Medicare and Medicaid. You're cutting the budget for NIH to find the cure for Alzheimer's. By the time all the baby boomers have retired, the budget for each year is going to be $1 trillion to take care of the 15 million baby boomers that are going to have Alzheimer's in nursing homes. So what are you guys doing? You're saying we're going to cut the budget for Medicaid, which pays for Alzheimer's patients in nursing homes, and we're going to cut the budget for the cure, for the funding for the NIH. You're having it both ways. No cure, and you're then going to cut the money for these poor families in the Medicaid and Medicare budget. You shouldn't do this. The NIH are the National Institutes of Hope. Research is medicine's field of dreams from which we harvest the findings that give hope to millions of families in our country. You are cutting this budget, and you're not giving us an opportunity to make an amendment which will be able to put the funding in for the NIH budget. And that is just a very bad moral decision which you are making. And you're sending a false hope to people that you're actually solving the problem by cutting the NIH budget, but all of those people who are going to have Alzheimer's, and it's a demographic certainty, are going to cost $1 trillion a year by 2050. You are doing nothing about that right now. And by the way, you won't have the courage to tell people you're not going to take care of them in nursing homes across this country. That demographic is going to be so strong. Put the money back in for NIH, for Alzheimer's, for Parkinson's, for all of these diseases. Please, God, let's at least agree on that as a bipartisan issue, that all of our families are going to be equally struck by all of these diseases. The gentleman from New York has put his finger right on this great moral and political dilemma for our country. A stitch in time will save 9. The money we put up now will save not 9, but 900 times the money that is ultimately going to have to be spent on all of these Alzheimer's, all of these Parkinson's patients. 5 million have it today. It is a demographic certainty.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Illinois rise?
Madam Speaker, I move to strike the last word.
The gentleman is recognized for 5 minutes.
Madam Speaker, today I am rising to speak out on a severe lack of centers and facilities for level 1 trauma centers throughout this nation. I introduced an amendment which I am withdrawing. Madam Speaker, in my home state of Illinois, our family members are dying due to the tragic lack of level 1 trauma centers in close proximity to those who need it. Sadly, our newspaper headlines, including yesterday's Chicago Sun-Times, are filled with stories, tragic stories of victims struck by bullets, stabbed, and other kinds of trauma visited upon them. Despite the best efforts of witnesses, bystanders, and arriving paramedics, the lack of nearby level 1 trauma centers dramatically reduces survival rates and drives up long-term acute care needs and costs. Madam Speaker, in 1999, my son, 29 years old, Huey, was shot 2 blocks from a hospital, but he couldn't go to that hospital because they didn't have a level 1 trauma center. So they had to transport him some 10 miles away, where eventually he passed. this is just one example of one of these sad stories. It is not only patently unfair, but it's an injustice that in a nation as vast and as prosperous as ours, that we have a tragic lack of such of misplaced priorities by not having level 1 trauma centers close to the communities where people reside. The fact that a communities that's home to about 750,000 people on the greater south side of Chicago, an overwhelming portion of which sits in my congressional district, does not have not one level 1 trauma care center, literally results in the needless loss of life.
Committee will be in order. Gentleman may proceed.
Our nation has seen time and time again the amazing work that gifted trauma surgeons and fully equipped trauma care facilities can deliver to pull patients back from almost certain death. What I want to ensure, Madam Speaker, is that the same level of care that's available in the affluent communities in this nation is also available to the men, the women, and the children in low-income communities. The aforementioned editorial in the Chicago Sun-Times reported on the tragic set of circumstances that befell an 18-year-old trauma victim who, after being struck by a bullet in a drive-by shooting last August, could not go to the nearby University of Chicago Medical Center that was only 4 blocks away because that facility did not have a trauma center. The University of Chicago Hospital, one of the major hospitals in this nation, does not have a level 1 trauma center. Instead, at a time when every moment counts, every minute counts to save a life, paramedics had to drive the victim 9 miles to the nearest level 1 trauma center, Northwestern Memorial Hospital, where the victim later died. Madam Speaker, situations like this simply should not happen in America. As I stand here today, I'm fully aware of the need to provide funding for trauma centers for the financial losses that they incur. The National Trauma Care Foundation has estimated the economic loss to trauma centers due to their treatment of the uninsured and underinsured patients is $230 million per year. In the same Sun-Times editorial that I mentioned before, they also reported on a study last year by the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation that found that almost 3/4 of the nation's emergency rooms are unable to provide round-the-clock specialty care, and almost 1/4 of hospitals cited this as a reason for the loss or downgrading of their trauma care designation. It is time, Madam Speaker, for us to address this nationwide shortage of trauma care, especially in underserved areas. I yield back the balance of my time.
For what purpose does the gentleman from New York rise?
Madam Chairwoman, motion to strike the last word.
The gentleman is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I rise in support of Representative Bass's amendment in support of the Low-Income Home Energy Assistance Program. The continuing resolution cuts the LIHEAP program by almost $400 million. This program is crucial to the homeowners in the Northeast, specifically in my district of Staten Island and Brooklyn, New York. LIHEAP helps low-income families and seniors remain healthy and secure from cold winters in the north and hot summers in the south, as well as keeping them from having to face the impossible choice of paying their home energy bills or affording other necessities such as prescription drugs and food. I am cognizant of the fact that in a time of record deficits and reduced spending, we must tighten our respective belts. However, it is imperative that we make smart spending choices. That being said, I believe that when given the choice between ensuring that our seniors have the ability to heat their homes during frigid New York winters or putting even more money into the catch-all slush fund at NASA, there is no choice at all. As I have stated numerous times, I absolutely believe that deep budget cuts are required to get our government back on a sound fiscal path. However, we must first look to cut spending that is truly wasteful. For that reason, I stand in support of Representative Bass's amendment, and I yield the rest of my time.
Gentleman
Thank you,
yields
Madam.
his time. Gentlewoman from Connecticut, for what purpose does the gentlewoman rise?
I move to strike the last word. I'm very
Gentlewoman is
intrigued.
recognized for 5 minutes.
I'm really intrigued by my colleagues who, on the other side of the aisle, who made a determination to cut LIHEAP, $390 million. That was the decision that, in fact, it wasn't important enough for the well-being of people, whether they are in the Northeast or whether in the Midwest or in other parts of the country which have very tough winters. So now what they would want to do is to take money from elsewhere to other worthy programs that, in fact, they have cut but would further cut. In the instance of Mr. Bass's amendment, he would reduce the money from SAMHSA. That is the money for substance abuse and mental illness. And what it does is to help to reduce the impact of substance abuse and mental illness on America's communities by focusing its services on the people who are in most need. It translates research and makes it useful and more effective so that we can get this into the general health care system. How do you treat addiction? How do you treat mental illness? Very difficult issues. So they would take that money, but they have cut LIHEAP, low-income energy assistance, which for the most part we're looking at low-income people, and if it's applied to seniors, what they will do is they won't cook their food at the right temperature, and that puts their health in jeopardy. They will buy a space heater, potentially, and they put their lives in jeopardy. If my colleagues on the other side of the aisle really care about low-income energy assistance, they wouldn't have started to make their cuts there. They would have moved to the $40 billion in subsidies for oil and gas. They would have moved elsewhere to look for this funding. And what they would have done is to cut back on the subsidies for special interests. To do that. It is a bit disingenuous, and it robs Peter to pay Paul, but I believe that that's the nature of what this unfixable bill is all about. Yield back.
Gentlewoman yields back. For what purpose does the gentleman from Illinois rise?
Madam Speaker, I move to strike the last word.
Gentleman's recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you. I rise today to support the amendment offered by my friend and colleague from New York, Mrs. Lowy. This amendment will restore vital funding to the Title X family planning program. Now, I am all in order of reducing our deficit and getting our fiscal house in order, but let's be clear on something. This cut to Title X will not save money. The proponents of eliminating family planning funds want us to believe that cutting these funds is, quote, fiscally responsible and has to be done to balance our budget. But what they don't want us to know is that investing in family planning saves money. For every public dollar invested in family planning, taxpayers save nearly $4. So while cutting family planning appears to be a savings up front, over the long run it will cost us, both in dollars and in health and in the well-being of millions of women. While we are being honest, let's also discuss the other motive for proponents of cutting Title X. They argue that cutting funds for family planning will reduce abortions. Once again, they are wrong. In fact, if they wanted to reduce abortions, they would increase funding for Title X. Why? Because Title X services prevent nearly 1 million unintended pregnancies each year, almost half of which would otherwise end in abortion. If we want to get serious about cutting federal spending and reducing abortions, a good start would be investing in Title X, not eliminating it, which is exactly what this amendment will do. Of course, in addition to reducing unintended pregnancies and saving taxpayers money, family planning providers like Planned Parenthood provide essential life-saving and preventative care. In 2009, Title X providers performed 2.3 million breast exams, 2.2 million Pap tests, over 6 million tests for STIs, and close to 1 million HIV tests. For 6 out of 10 women who receive care from women's health centers, this is their only source of health care. Eliminating all funds for family planning would cut millions of women off their primary and, in many cases, only source of health care. To the millions of women out there who want comprehensive reproductive health care, this is what they think of you. They think that women should not have access to basic reproductive health care, including birth control. Recent legislation revealed that they think you shouldn't be able to access care even if you are a victim of rape or incest. This is what they think of you. All these bills reveal the true mindset of the opponents of choice. Women are not capable of making their own decisions about their own health and their own lives. These cuts to family planning programs would have a devastating impact in my community. 10 Planned Parenthood health centers in Illinois provide primary and preventative care, including flu vaccines, diabetes screening, and cholesterol screening. They would all be forced to close. This would affect approximately 30,000 low-income patients and eliminate the jobs of 200 health center workers. Not exactly the kind of job-stimulating legislation we should be focusing on. The conversation we're having today is not about choice, but choices. With family planning, we can reduce abortions and save the federal government money. Without, we only pretend to do either. With family planning, we can embrace educating and providing health care to women. Without, we abandon women who need care the most. With family planning, we can empower the women of America. Without, we undermine them. We have the choice, and we must choose to stand up to these attacks and fight back against the mistruths, because the health, well-being, and lives of millions of women and their families are at stake. This amendment is a strike against these wrong-headed cuts to family planning. I encourage my colleagues to restore funding to Title X family planning programs and vote yes on Mrs. Lowy's amendment. Thank you, and I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. For what purpose does the gentlewoman from California rise?
To strike the last word?
Gentlewoman is recognized for 5 minutes.
Okay. Madam Chair, I rise in strong opposition to this continuing resolution because it ignores the needs of America's families and does nothing to create jobs, strengthen the middle class, or effectively lower the deficit. The $1.3 billion cut to community health centers is astounding. In my district alone, if these cuts are enacted, over 112,000 individuals will suffer a significant loss in primary health services, and they will be forced to use costly hospital emergency care. Nationally, these cuts mean health centers will be unable to serve 11 million patients over the next year. It means 127 new health centers in underserved districts will lose their funds. And it means the loss of thousands of health care jobs. Also on the chopping block is the Title X program, which provides over 8,000 men and women in my district with reproductive health care and cancer screenings. Nationally, the $317 million cut to Title X will force many clinics to close, eliminating another primary care safety net for 5 million men and women. Also unbelievable is the $210 million in proposed cuts to the Maternal and Child Health Block Grant Program. This cut will devastate primary and preventive health services in California for an estimated 2.6 million pregnant women, infants, and special needs children. The cuts also endanger other critical programs, such as California's newborn screening program, which last year tested almost 550,000 newborns for treatable genetic and metabolic diseases, which, if undetected, could have become painful and life-threatening. On the national level, these cuts in MCH grants will reduce or eliminate prenatal health services for 2 million women and primary health care for more than 17 million children. In a country that ranks far behind almost all other developed nations in maternal and infant outcomes, we can ill afford to slash funding for the only federal program that focuses solely on improving the health of mothers and their babies. Madam Chair, this bill is a Trojan horse that pretends to address our nation's deficit crises at the expense of the most vulnerable among us. This bill is not worthy of this House, for it fails to honor the true priorities and values of the American people. And I urge my colleagues to join me in rejecting this irresponsible resolution. I yield back the balance of my time.
The gentlewoman yields back. For what purpose does the gentlewoman from California rise?
Madam Chair, I rise to strike the last word.
Gentlewoman is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you. Madam Chair, I rise to speak in strong support of the Lowy Amendment, reinstating the funding for the federal Title X program, which supports family planning services for all of our constituents. While we all agree on the need to reduce spending, it is just bad policy to eliminate a proven successful program that saves the taxpayer money and provides critical health care services for our mothers, our sisters, our friends. This is bad policy. The Title X program, the only federal program devoted to family planning, is the core of the public effort to ensure that all women, regardless of income, have the knowledge and health care they need to plan for their families. Its flexible grant funds not only help pay for direct client services, but also help to ensure that state and local governments and nonprofit organizations across the country can place safety net clinics in the communities that need them the most. These clinics are the primary source of health care for millions of low-income American women. By helping women and couples plan and space their pregnancies, family planning services have led to healthier mothers and children and have been instrumental in the long struggle for women's equality in education, the workforce, and society. In light of the economic downturn, the freedom that the Title X program has given to women in the workforce is particularly important. But this program hasn't just been successful for the for over 4.5 million Americans who use it every year. It has been successful for the American taxpayer, as every dollar spent on this program saves our nation nearly $4 in return. In light of the important role that family planning has played in health care and society, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention has called family planning one of the top 10 greatest public health achievements of the 20th century, alongside other critical breakthroughs like vaccinations and the campaigns against smoking. Over 40 years ago, Title X family planning funding was enacted on a unanimous vote in the Senate by an overwhelming majority in the House. When signed into law, then-President Richard Nixon said it fulfilled a promise that no American woman should be denied access to family planning assistance because of her economic condition. How far we have come from that time to this day, when we have the research to prove that a program works, and yet the House Republican leadership has recklessly decided to cut it completely. Eliminating Title X now would be a devastating blow to the health, the security, and the dreams of millions of American women and their families. Denying 5 million women preventive care, including annual exams, life-saving cancer screenings, contraceptive services, and testing and treatment for sexually transmitted infections. If members of Congress really want to reduce our federal deficit, we would double funding for family planning, which studies have shown could save taxpayer dollars nearly $2 billion per year. And yet, for some reason, my friends on the other side of the aisle seem to believe that cutting this program, defunding a program that actually saves Americans money and improves the health of millions of Americans, that somehow this is a good idea. For those members who oppose Title X funding, I ask you, how do you plan to ensure that the women in your district and in your state have access to life-saving prevention services? The sham of a Republican omnibus spending bill contains no answers to these questions, just broken promises for the American people. Let's be clear. A vote against Title X is a vote for unintended pregnancies. A vote against Title X is a vote for the spread of sexually transmitted diseases and HIV. A vote against Title X is a vote for increased rate of cervical cancer, breast cancer if caught late or if at all. And a vote against Title X is a vote for increased abortion rates. Well, I would like to think of this as an oversight. It is not the first attack on women's access to health care that has been seen in the 112th Congress. Combined with the mean-spirited bills moving for the House committees that reopen the culture wars, it is obvious that this extreme and reckless proposal by the Republican majority to defund Title X clinics is just the next step in an all-out Republican assault on women's health. This Congress should be focused on creating jobs for the millions of moms working to put food on the table, not attacking their rights and their health. I urge my colleagues to support the Lowy amendment to add some common sense to this omnibus spending bill, and I yield back the balance of my time.
Gentlewoman yields back. For what purpose does the gentlewoman from California rise?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move to strike the last word.
Gentlewoman is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First, let me just say I am shocked and appalled at the comment yesterday by the Speaker when he said, "So be it," in response to the likely job losses that will occur as a result of this continuing resolution. An independent analysis by the Nonpartisan Economic Policy Institute indicates that this bill will result in the direct loss, mind you, of 800,000 private and public sector jobs. Instead of doing everything we can do to halt the loss of jobs and put people back to work, this bill takes the wrong approach, putting our economy and our country back on the path to recession. For every job opening in this country, we have 4.7 unemployed people who are looking for work. Why would we want to add to their numbers? So be it. Cannot and should not be our response to this economic crisis, not with a 9% unemployment rate and over 15% in communities of color and record layoffs and furloughs at the state level, and especially not when Republicans have the temerity to demand tax breaks for millionaires and billionaires paid for through borrowed money. This is just wrong and it's immoral. As a member of the House Appropriations Subcommittee on Labor, Health, and Human Services and Education, I am in strong opposition to these cruel cuts. Budgets are moral documents, and they are a reflection of who we are and what we value. This spending bill makes it clear that the poor, young, women, the elderly, teachers, firefighters, cops, and the communities that they protect and serve are not valued. Make no mistake, this bill will harm the most vulnerable among us, and it represents a wrong-headed approach to reducing the deficit or expanding job growth in our country. Madam Chair, I'm especially concerned about the proposed cuts to education and training programs. Among the range of cuts include Workforce Investment Act programs, which last year helped over 8.4 million job seekers find jobs. They got additional education and job training support. This is being cut. All told, when counting rescissions of prior funding, elimination of the requested FY11 funding, and the advanced funding needed to run these employment and training programs, they will experience nearly a $5 billion cut. Republican cuts in job training will only prolong the recession, keep unemployment high, and keep more Americans collecting unemployment, instead of training and getting ready for our 21st century job opportunities. How can we justify cutting job training programs in the middle of an economic crisis? How will my Republican colleagues respond to the unemployed in their communities who come to them and ask them for help? Will they just say, "So be it"? Pell Grants. Pell Grants provide vital funds for students who wish to attend 2- and 4-year colleges, but who need help to pay their expenses. In my district alone, there are 16 institutions that provide Pell Grants to over 18,000 recipients. This proposal would cut Pell Grants by $845, making college less affordable and accessible for low and moderate income students. More than 8 million students benefit from Pell Grants, and many would be hurt by this cut, especially as schools are raising tuition fees to meet rising costs and to deal with state budgets. The bill also entirely eliminates federal funding for supplemental education opportunity grants, which colleges and universities use to assist undergraduates who have the greatest financial need. That program assisted 1.3 million college students last year. Head Start, under this proposal, is cut by nearly $1.1 billion. This will effectively knock out 200,000 children, mind you, in Republican and Democratic districts from participating in this critical early education program. This helps provide health, nutrition, and supportive services to prepare our children for school. The Job Corps program. This program is cut by $891 million, which will result in 21,384 jobs lost in communities in every state, the majority of which are in the private sector. $1.7 billion is lost in economic activity as a result of this. 36,000 at-risk young people will be turned away from Job Corps, costing the government and the economy as much as $17 billion over the course of their lifetimes. Additionally, the cuts will guarantee the closure, mind you, of 75 Job Corps centers across the nation, in your districts and in our districts. Slashing one of the most effective, accountable, and market-driven solutions for millions of youth who leave our schools unprepared is really the wrong move at the wrong time. The majority has stated that they want to cut the deficit, but in effect they are cutting the social safety net, cutting the lifeline for those who need it the most. This CR leads us down a path that
Gentlewoman's time has expired.
In hopelessness, joblessness, and it destroys the future for our young people.
For what purpose does the gentlewoman from Texas